Welcome to Network Africa. Coming up on the program. Kenya opposition opts to defy the government ban on protest, while the government pushes for dialogue. Then the United Nations refugee bus is in Kenya for talks over the Dadaab camp closure. And later, you get to find out what is the role of the International Criminal Court in ending impunity and establishing the rule of law. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bisi Adebayo. Despite a ban, Kenya's opposition has promised that regular protests demanding changes to the Electoral Commission will continue. A leader of Kenya's opposition alliance explained that the protest ban is unconstitutional, stating that it's simply an attempt to suspend the constitution, which says rights and freedoms are not granted by the state but are inherent. On his part, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta has reiterated that the government will not allow violent protests in reference to recent demonstrations by the opposition Quad Alliance that have ended in the clashes with the police. But he added, quote, "We will allow protests as long as they remain peaceful as provided for in our constitution," end of quote. Joining us from Kenya is lead consultant for Sovereign Insight, Mr. Vincent Kimosop. Mr. Kimosop, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. How are you?
Well, it's beginning to look like the opposition is getting their way now that the government is allowing protest, even though it's with certain conditions.
First, I think it is important to point out that the Kenyan Constitution guarantees the freedom of expression, the freedom of association, the right to picket and to petition. So the government is obligated constitutionally to uphold the constitution and ensure that people can gather peacefully. So the challenge has been not that they can demonstrate or picket and present petitions before institutions. The challenge has been how peaceful are the demonstrations. So I can say that the opposition has managed to profile the issue of accountability and integrity in the electoral body. Conversations has led to the establishment of select committees and with a precise and specific assignment on discussing the issue of the electoral management body.
Well, is the opposition looking to engage in dialogue with the government?
Yes, they have pointed out that they are willing to have dialogue. So the current challenge is the conversation on how this dialogue ought to go. According to the president and his party, he is of the view that this should only happen within the mechanisms established in the constitution and specifically in parliament. The opposition does not want this to happen in parliament. So that's where the tussle is. And the president speaking today saying, yes, people have a right to picket, have a right to demonstrate, but they should not be violent, because when they become violent, the implications are there. It reduces our recovery efforts of the tourism sector. It also paints a wrong image, and it sends investors a wrong sign to investors. So that's why the president is saying we will have allow demonstrations, but they should not be violent.
Well, going by his reputation, President Kenyatta is one of Africa's most loved presidents. Does this move by the opposition reflect the stance of a majority of the electorate?
I think, as you remember, in the year 2013, we had a contested election. The president got slightly above 50%. So we still emerged out of that elections a divided country. So we cannot say that it is a significant number, but since the opposition has close rank and they have remained united since 2013, you can say they represent a section or a voice within the Kenyan society. But of course, you also know that it's really still not very much about the Kenyan people. It is still about the politicians. So there are people who, that's why you can see only a certain parts of the country where demonstrations are being witnessed, but it is not really a big part of the country where we are seeing this. But concerns about strengthening the electoral process is shared across the political divide, even outside actors like the clerics, the academia, and also civil society.
And are there protests still going on at the moment?
No, there are no protests. There is only a notice that has been issued by the court coalition to the police. That's according to the public order law. And that they want to have a peaceful demonstration on Monday. So the question, therefore, is you've been calling for dialogue. Opportunities and the conversation are started. Then why are you demonstrating? And I think that's why politically the president is saying, yes, you want a dialogue, we have provided mechanism. You want to continue demonstrating, you can go ahead and demonstrate, but ensure it's peaceful, so that the law is upheld and the constitution that is sought to uphold and to defend is also promoted and implemented as is required.
So what mechanisms is the government saying it's providing with regards dialogue with the opposition?
As you're aware, the president met religious leaders, and he also met the different segments of the population. And this week, they had a meeting at State House, and he gave directions after meeting the two leaders, the two speakers of the Senate and the National Assembly, that there will be a joint committee that will comprise members of both parties, members of both houses, and they will have 30 days to discuss this issue and make recommendations on how to move ahead in strengthening and building confidence on the electoral management body.
Thank you, Mr. Kimoso, for joining us on the program.
You're welcome.
The head of the UN's refugee agency is in Kenya for talks on controversial government plans to close down the world's largest refugee camp, Dadaab. You recall last month, the Kenyan government announced that it wants to close down the camp in the east of the country, which is home to more than 340,000 Somali refugees by the end of November. It claims some of the attacks carried out in the country were planned there. Despite intense pressure from the international community to reverse that decision, President Uhuru Kenyatta maintains that all refugees in Kenya will be returned home, as the country is facing a huge economic and security burden. This year alone, 8,000 refugees in Dadaab have voluntarily returned to Somalia, but tens of thousands of others say they are too afraid to go back due to security concerns. Back here in Nigeria, a group of militants in Akwa Cross region under the umbrella of the Bakassi Strike Force have condemned in totality the activities of the Niger Delta Avengers in blowing up pipelines. The group says these attacks have a retrogressive effect on the economy of Nigeria. However, the leader of the group, Mr. Simple Benjamin, says the federal government should listen to the agitations of the Niger Delta Avengers. According to him, the government should consider dialogue, as war alone cannot tackle the issue.
There is no struggle without a reason. Like the Niger Delta Avengers NDA today have reasons why they are blowing up oil and gas facilities belonging to Nigerian states. That's not to say that we are in support of their actions. We believe that nation building is no one-man task, but a collective effort. I wish to also appeal to my Niger Delta brothers that crippling Nigeria's economy is not the solution to our challenges. It is cheaper to make peace, as war leads to more destruction. Fellow compatriots of the Niger Delta Avengers, please sheath your swords and give peace a chance. I think you have made your points. Hence, you should give government chance to respond. Enough of the bombings, please. Nigeria needs peace now.
Still to come on the program, a look at the role of the International Criminal Court in ending impunity and establishing the rule of law.